13.1 Interpretation and Integration. By now, you should have responses to your survey and be ready to start reviewing the results. Survey results are often used by researchers as part of the data published in scholarly articles. Because they are often working with large, developed data sets, often over long periods of time, they can interpret their findings in context and use them to make and support complex claims, none of which is our goal. Our goal is to practice describing the results and to integrate the findings into our analytic exploration. Data. We discussed how to begin gathering data, and future courses or employers may build on this foundational skill with the exact specifications your field requires for data collection. The next step in the process is doing something with the data, or performing data analysis. Many professional and academic fields prefer workers to have a general knowledge of data analysis, and specific positions exist for experts in a dedicated type of data analysis. A basic understanding of data analysis is also valuable for readers and audiences of research and any source-informed content. Much of the content you encounter will include interpretations of analyzed data, so having a basic understanding of data analysis will prepare you to read and write within and beyond USF. Datasets can be analyzed in many ways and with many tools. With small datasets, you might determine that your critical reading skills are all you need to locate patterns and connections within the data and describe them within context. Larger datasets, like the ones you may work with later in your career, often require analytic technologies to parse the data. These technologies include AntConc, QDA-Miner, NVivo, R, SPSS, Python, Power BI, Tableau, and others. Some tools are utilized more in academic research, and some are preferred by industry, but the overlap is expanding. Some have a dashboard that helps viewers dive into the specifics of the dataset. USF uses Tableau to make a significant amount of data public. USF System Facts, Strategic Performance Data, Rankings, Survey Research, Post-Graduation Outcomes. These technologies are capable of interpreting multiple variables and entries, so they can make working with very large datasets easier. While we won't work with these tools in this course, expertise with R, SPSS, and Python is often requested and rewarded by employers. Learning coding languages and technologies can also provide you with an edge over other candidates on the job market. Distinguishing data. Your current data set is probably very small, so you should be able to read it closely and critically without aid from analytic tools. Use Google Forms to look at your responses. When you click on responses at the top of your form, you will see some answers displayed as graphics. If you included questions that allow for short answers or longer text, the responses are also included in the responses. But to manipulate these results, export the responses to Sheets by clicking the green icon. Sheets and Excel share similar functionality. Once your data is in the Sheets, you can move it around to create different views that allow you to see different patterns. Some basic forms functions are freezing the first row with the column tiles and sorting a sheet by A to Z. You can also move columns around so that you can see the results of two answers together. Simply moving columns and arranging them alphabetically can reveal useful information. If your survey asked whether or not people were familiar with your topic and asked what their major was, you might notice much by reading down the list of yes and no answers. But if you move those two columns together, you might start to see a connection. And if you ordered the yes or no column alphabetically, you could see all the yes answers together. When you alphabetize a column, the responses in all the rows should move too, so that the answers stay aligned. By looking at the yes answers next to the list of majors, you might notice that most of the respondents who are familiar with the topic are in the same discipline, which would be a pattern you could mention in your findings. If your survey asked people their opinion on their topic and asked where they got their information about the topic, you could line up those two columns to see if there is any connection between the personal opinion and the sources. Describing that information is useful for our analytic exploration. Interpretation is an option too, but be careful not to overstate or assume. For instance, if you see a pattern between a specific opinion on your topic and a source that survey takers with that opinion say they use to get their information, can you suggest that the source is the reason for their opinion? What if confirmation bias is at play, and the people who already have an opinion on the topic seek out sources that confirm their opinions? And what if respondents forgot other sources they read? You can describe the connection, but if you don't have enough information to make casual claims. Visualizing data. Images can play an important role in delivering or clarifying information. When used well, images can contribute to understanding or strengthen a spoken or written argument. When we learned about design in presentation preparation, we reviewed data visualizations and discussed how a bar graph, line graph, or pie chart can help our audience make sense of the numbers. While it is important to understand the value of creating visualizations that support the comprehension of data, it is also valuable to be able to analyze images as an audience member. In theory, graphs and graphics are designed to foster understanding, but they can also be designed to mislead or manipulate viewers intentionally. Whether you are constructing an image to convey information or deconstructing an image as you receive information, considering a few key terms and questions can help you think through how images can be used effectively. The focal point of an image is the center of interest to which the eye is drawn. Consider what is the focal point of the image and why is your eye drawn to it. What is the second thing you notice and why does the eye move to it? Formal analysis begins with identifying elements within an image. Notice the main elements of the image: colors, shapes, words, numbers, or lines. Formal analysis then looks at how the elements in the image function as an image without any outside information or context. Recognize how the elements you noted work together to draw and maintain the viewer's interest. Contextual analysis identifies external information that is needed to supplement the image and create meaning. Consider what is the meaning of the image, and what context is needed to understand the image. An image can represent evidence visually, chart with statistics about malnourished children, or an image can function as its own piece of evidence, picture of malnourished child. Consider the connection between the meaning of the image to the claim you are using it, or could use it, to support and recognize how the image strengthens the claim. Identify the connection between the text, the image, and the context, information that supplements the image, and consider how the formal elements of the image support the meaning. Images do not need to be complex to convey meaning and facilitate comprehension. In fact, simple is often better. Once your survey results are in, review the data and consider which point can be supported by an image. Thinking about questions that lend themselves to visualizations is also helpful as part of your survey construction. Google Forms automatically displays responses with charts and graphs, so see if there are any good options in your responses. To prepare for assignment 13.1, start to think about selecting or creating an image, ideally one you can use in your analytic exploration. The analytic exploration will allow us to practice describing and connecting our findings. The first step is simply describing the data, which is less simple than it might seem. As you read through and organize the data set in search of connections and patterns, think about what you are learning about the people who completed the survey. Consider what the data tell you about what people know and think about the subject. It will allow you to make suggestions about what people think or know. So be careful to use suggests, supports, or similar verbs to phrase your claims. Data never prove anything definitively. When you are working with a small sample in particular, your data can only support certain claims about the subject. For 13.1, you will write one paragraph describing the data. As you are describing the data, include details about the survey, your delivery, and your sample. Explaining to your readers that your results come from a survey distributed to a specific number of users via a specific website helps establish your credibility. Writers who don't state where their data comes from appear to have something to hide, and many readers will discount your claims if you do not provide this information. After providing context, describe what you think are important elements of the findings and note why they are of value. Making and stating that connection can move you beyond summary and description, which is okay in this case, but be sure not to go too far. Next, you will write one sentence summarizing the results. If you wrote an article or paper about the survey results, this would be the thesis. Remember to avoid overstating or extrapolating the findings. Because you know that your goal will be to connect this work to the larger assignment, your summary should have already started to do that work by highlighting a takeaway that you know is relevant to what you looked for and in other research and findings. For instance, if your topic were electric vehicles and your academic and popular articles provided specific information on electrical vehicle usage, hopefully you created your survey questions with that in mind. If one of the articles you read argued that people who bought electric vehicles were most likely to do so for environmental reasons, your survey might have asked readers if they have an electric vehicle, and if so, why they bought it. Perhaps you have 5 respondents who did have an electric vehicle, and perhaps all 5 say that they bought it for environmental reasons. Your one-sentence summary might state that 100% of the electric vehicle owners you surveyed purchased their electric vehicle for environmental reasons. More than one takeaway can be noted in your summary, but if you know what you plan to do with the findings, you only need to note what is relevant. You could say that your results related to the reasons for purchase did not align with the argument from that article. Perhaps it did align with the findings of other articles, and if so, both of those pieces of information would be valuable in your one-sentence summary. In fact, a summary like that would prepare you for synthesis. Next, you will write one sentence describing how the finding connects to the other sources. You can also write how the finding differs from other sources if your results suggested something the other research does not support, which is a common finding with smaller, focused samples like the one you cultivated. Remember that many research articles use large, random samples to collect data, so their findings make claims about a broad group of people, while your findings make claims about a small, focused group. The difference doesn't invalidate either their findings or yours, and can add critical nuance to your research topic. As you think about nuance or different perspectives and meanings, consider how your primary data compares to your secondary and even tertiary sources. The goal of research is to generate knowledge, so work with all your sources to create knowledge about a subject that did not exist before. The goal of your research is to discuss all of your sources in relation to each other. Your survey will serve as one of the 6 sources you consider as part of your analytic exploration. So when you start to think through the connections across sources, consider both of the popular sources and all 3 of the academic articles. To revisit our electric vehicle example, you could say that your results related to the reasons for purchase did not align with the results from one article. Perhaps they did align with the findings of other articles, and if so, both of those pieces of information would be valuable in your one-sentence summary. You might even find that your finding aligns with the 3 academic sources, but none of the popular sources, which would be worth exploring if this were a different or longer assignment. For now, allow your work in 9.2 to prepare you for synthesis. Finally, select or create an image to help make a point using the information from your survey. In responses, Google Forms will automatically present some of the results in the form of pie charts or bar graphs. You can select one of the images to discuss in 13.1. When you export your responses to Google Sheets, you can also use the functions in Google Sheets to create data visualizations. You can also review the options discussed in reading 5.1 and take this opportunity to explore other software options that support the creation of images or infographics. Assignment 13.1. After completing the reading, provide a considered response to each of the assignment questions and upload your answers to Canvas. Number 1. Write a 1-paragraph description of the results of your survey. Number 2. Write a 1-sentence summarizing any key findings. Number 3. Write 1 sentence connecting the findings to the other sources. Number 4, include a visual representation of one response from your survey. Explain the finding and how it is connected to your topic. Then describe the image and how it helps your reader better understand the result and the point of